There's two things that I want to discuss, certainly in this video. One of them is actually aside from the core issue, but I do want to bring it up because really this entire thread popped off because of this particular guy and what he had to say. Now, I want to be very clear. I've not said anything publicly, certainly to my knowledge, negative about this guy, right? Comic historian. Haven't done that. I can certainly understand where there's a need, market need for that, people wanting to become knowledgeable on it. However, some people feel that actually that's part of the reason the industry is in the shape that it is. They're not incentivize people to buy because you have guys like him. I'm not necessarily of that position, though I can certainly see where they're coming from. But he apparently isn't a fan of mine, and he had some interesting things to say, and this is what popped all this off. I'm only going to go through this briefly, and then I'm going to get to the core issue here. But he said, and I was screen grab was from his Discord, was obtained, and it was given to me, and this is what he said. All right, I'm watching an Eric July video, a comics gator who made that Rippaverse thing. Okay, acting like you don't know what it is. You know exactly what that is, but, it's a little jab, undermining, that's fine. And why comics are dying. Because at this point, I just got to watch something and see what are they talking about. Why is he yelling so much? So he's going on about me yelling. Another guy who he does not correct at all, which, it's not necessarily his job to do so, but he's not correcting a guy who called me alt-right of all things. And he also says that so much in his video is just cherry picked so he can make his argument. The worst part is that some of his arguments are valid. What? And then he says, and the real data is right next to him, grabbing the wrong data to inflate his point. So it's like he knows I'm right, but he doesn't really want to acknowledge that it is that I'm right because he has to find something that he feels is wrong. And I posted it asking just to make sure, because I don't know if it's a guy pretending to be him. And he did confirm publicly that was him. And you can see his post right here. I responded and said, there's not really much of an argument to be had, but I want to verify that. I just wanted to verify that with you that it was him, And he says, what data? Well, I asked what data was wrong that I grabbed. He has not responded to that. And I don't see him actually going out of his way to respond to that. Now, look, I know that a lot of these guys who have their positions and really a lot of their careers, definitely in the public space, when it comes to YouTube, maybe not their career, they probably do something on the side, I'd imagine, is built around the success of the mainstream comic book industry, as well as the maybe with the movies, the DC Extended Universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, all that. So they're going to have a rather more positive outlook on the books, that not to say that they're going to be completely positive, but 90% of probably their material is going to be, let's say, in a neutral or positive light. Their bacon kind of depends on that. But look what came out of this. I'm going to show you. This right here very well might be the dumbest thing that I've seen someone say. Now, remember, this spawns from kind of what happened with that post. And this guy said, you ever get tired of making videos? Not out of that post, out of this whole ordeal with my position on the comic book industry and comics. And this guy says, you ever get tired of making videos talking about negative things to do with comics? You ever want to talk about good things to do with comics? And this is a weird response into the video that he's responding to is this one right here. And that video is me really just going through what the industry is missing. And I'm talking about the enthusiasm. And it's not even one of those like, oh, this is a thing that's happening and this is just a terrible about the comic book. It's not what that video was designed to do. They don't decipher that. That's fine. Or separate that. Make that distinction more accurately. He says, and I respond to him, of course. I say, no, I'll never get tired of calling out the negative because I want it fixed. And that's what I believe. I think everybody walks around, knows being kind of pinched, and they're acting like it don't stink. There's enough people that are going around saying nothing but positive things, or mostly positive things about what's happening with the industry. And that's why I feel like that's what the data shows us as I've gone through with the unit sales having been in a decline, certainly in years past. They'll point out the sales numbers. I'm not going to spend this video going through this. I have a video that's dedicated. Go look at the data. It says a lot more just looking at the sheer sales figures when you consider what they consider as sales, as far as like with the mangas and all that. Go watch that video. Nonetheless, there's not enough people, maybe on our pocket of the internet they exist, but not enough people that are talking about the issues that plague the industry and why it's a decline. And I want it to be fixed. I want the American comic book industry to be, again, like they were in decades past, more of a net exporter of entertainment, but they're not right now. This is why you see in Japanese kick your tails in your own industry. And it's not just about what is woke or per se. There's a lot of other issues, and people that watch me know that I've spoke about them many times, but those that don't think that it's just one thing, and though that is a part of it, it's certainly not the only. But this guy had this to say. Again, by far the dumbest thing. There's a lot of dumb detractors that I have, but this might take the cake. He says, Eric, go to a comic book shop. There are plenty of great comics out there that don't do things that make you upset about Marvel and DC. He probably doesn't know what my position is on Marvel and DC, and I'm sure there's things that are in those comic book shops that I guess don't have the problems that I gripe about, probably back issues predominantly, but I'm sure there's a book or two in there that is okay. But you'd have to really understand where it is that I'm coming from, what my position is, in order to really even make such a claim. But I'm willing to bet that he doesn't. You put these guys to a test, and what do you think my position is? I made a post about this the other day. I spoke about, like, guys, social media is just people that are getting themselves irate, upset at positions that I don't even have. But this is the bit that gets hilarious. He says, if you care about comics, put your money where your mouth is. Praising your own comic as if it's the only good thing out is weak sauce. And I did respond to that, of course, saying that, well, first of all, I never made that claim. Again, these guys operate on positions that they need you to have. Not that you actually have. It's the position that they need you to have in order for their arguments that they have pre-planned and packaged to be correct. So I've never made that claim, and I've talked about other people that are in comics that are doing decent things. I spoke about maybe they're not people that maybe those guys like. I spoke about Chuck Dixon and his work on Adventure Bear. I talked about that. We discussed that on the channel. We had him on the channel. We talked about Inglorious Rex, as well as Starlight Cats with Shane Davis. We've discussed that. You see me all the time. I'm wearing right here Ultra Star hat, right? My man's. Pax Thomas Parnell. I've talked about that. I've talked about obviously other guys within the Comics Gate sphere, like obviously Ethan Van Sciver, right? And what he's doing, which it looks like as of this past week, we started some fulfillment. They started some fulfillment over there with a Rick Planet. So those guys you probably don't like, and when I say good things about that, but then I also have like this long playlist of when I used to be a big reviewer of a lot of comic books, when that was my thing, definitely when I had the time and when I was still purchasing that stuff, having that pull list, that large pull list that I had, it's there, and there was a lot of work that I would say that was good. It wasn't all this is negative, this is negative. That also includes movie. Of course, that's going to be invalidated. It's like if he needs one thing to be true, and therefore he's going to operate as if it's the case. But here's the thing that makes this it's just hilarious to say that. Guys, I spent my own money, and I operated for about 2 years at a loss, obviously, because I wasn't selling a product. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money to launch the Rippaverse. And I know you might not like the fact that it's funny. You don't expect of the other big guys to sit up here and always, let's say positive, try to find positive things to say about their competitors. But for some reason, it's expected that I do that. Nonetheless, Reverse is a positive thing. It's a good thing that happened in comics, and I was a part of it. But it didn't happen just like that. I spent my own money before I ever made a return because there's no product to sell, because I wanted the product to be ready. And I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make that happen. We now have a multi-million-dollar business, comic book business, after iSum 1's pre-order campaign. And there's going to be at least 3 books that will be dropping by the end of this year, maybe more. We'll see what happens. However, in doing so, With this company, I employ both comic book lovers in administrative positions, right? These guys have their dream jobs, working with myself, getting paid a competitive salary, getting paid on time. And those are actual employees that assist me day to day, right? I employ them. And just on payroll alone in the last quarter, this dipstick who is talking all this noise, I can bet that I have spent more money in a month on payroll than you have spent in your entire life in comic books. Okay? Or last quarter, minimum. And I had these employees, a lot of these employees, before we ever launched iSome1's campaign. So that's one thing. But also let's talk about the people who I've contracted as well. Cliff Richards, who Aftershock Comics didn't, because they went under, Cliff was named in that whole deal with the bankruptcy and not getting paid. I paid him on time. He's working on iSome 2 right now. The great Cliff Richards, who did the artwork for iSome1. He was paid handsomely to do so. Gabriel Taib, of course, is the colorist, former DC guy. Did some Star Wars stuff, Marvel as well. I contracted him to do that. We have 3 other books that now are being worked on, including iSome 2, which of course has the same team. The great Eric Weathers, we announced this, that now he's employed with the Rippaverse, who's the letterer. He helps us day to day now. He now has a well-paying job that takes care of the basics for him. Contractors for the other 2 projects, which I'm not writing. So I paid thousands of dollars of my own money. Competitive. Again, I pay these guys better than what they were getting with the big 2. Pretty much every one of them have admitted that. So the writers I had to pay them. Colorists, I had to pay them. Of course, the artists who make the bulk of the money, I had to pay them. So that's at least 6 other people, or teams, let's say that. 6 other teams because of that project that I have paid and I've employed or I contracted, whatever way that you want to put it. They are getting paid right now to make this happen. The point of this all, and this isn't including all the other stuff that I'm doing that we prepare for iSome1, especially all the other things that I'm doing that are pertaining to certainly to this industry. And I've talked with other folks, of course, using my channel and all that, but just with the Rippaverse, from artists to administrative folk that are part of course, my overhead, they are employed and they do a great job in what it is that they do. I've quite literally put my money where my mouth is, probably more than any of these jokers can say. And that's what made this so hilarious. And remember, we are our own distributor, right? So think about that. All the warehouse guys that I got to pay, they have to get, I'm giving people jobs top to bottom with this company. And I'm thankful. I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm in. This cannot happen without who are the greatest customers in the world, the customers of the Rippaverse. But prior to this thing being launched, I had to put my own money up. And considering that now we're a multi-million-dollar business where I don't take the money and run with it, right? I don't take the money and go buy a mansion. I don't take the money and go buy a Lamborghini. I take the money and reinvest it because I am the 100% sole owner of Rippaverse. So the investment has to come from within. That's the only way things get done, right? We have to profit in order to continue to do this, because the minute we don't, because we have no investors, we're done. We're under, period. So I have to give people what it is that they want. We did that, of course, with iSome1. We have to keep that up. It's going to be risky every time that we put out a pre-order campaign, having that stuff ready, right? You think $3.7 million don't go as fast, but when you trying to continue to get this material out, it does. I have put my money where my mouth is. Again, more than any of you jokesters can say, right? I'm the last guy you can say that to. But because folks maybe don't like me ideologically, they don't like the fact that I say things about the industry that are negative, you know what I mean? It's funny. It's like, hey, he's a hate watcher. He does all this stuff for views. Not saying that this weirdo said that, but I made the point. If you want the views, just say nothing but positive things about especially you big 2, you'll be taken care of. That's what the algorithm is. It always has been this way. I don't know where they got this lie that the hate tubers, just because a couple of us get some views, right? They think that we make, Emergency Awesome is going to drop a video probably tomorrow that's going to get more views than I get the entire month. I don't know what you talking about. People that are neutral, people that say nothing negative, nothing controversial, for the most part, they only dislike things when it's like a thing that they can do publicly without getting destroyed by the audience that they cultivated. That's the only time that they would ever say something, let's say, negative about a pro. When it's cool to say, no, movie goes through its phases, and then, you got a bunch of people before them done said it's bad, then you'll say something is bad. That's the only time you say something. You won't go out on a limb. And that's smart because, well, that's the algorithm favors you. Look, the Rippaverse is here to stay. You can get with it or you can get up out of it. But either way, you can't stop us. And every passing day, there's some weirdo saying something, thinking that he can stop us. Not necessarily that. It's more of thinking that they could knock us. They get these gotchas and they make themselves look foolish. How about this? For you weirdos, how about you put your money where your mouth is? It's not just, half of y'all probably don't even buy books like that anyway. You put your money where your mouth is. All these gurus think they can, go be somebody's editor. Go make them a lot of money. Since you got all the answers, Sway, but you don't. We're here to stay. Get over it, homie. Get over it.